Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the meeting to order at this time for the January 7th, 2014. Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order for Tuesday, January 7th, 2014. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda with two additions.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Citizens to be heard. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on any item that is not on the agenda? Okay. Employee recognition. Dawn Broughton, how are you? Good. Come on up. Dawn has been with us for 30 years, so I think the details of the story. Yeah, and for public health, first director. And this is presented in grateful recognition of 30 years of outstanding service, dedicated service to Clay County and its citizens. Thank you and congratulations. Thank you. Mark Fire. Is Mark with us? Yeah, I just saw you, Mark. No. Come on up. Brian, is this on?
Yes, it is.
And Mark has been with Clay County for 20 years. Welcome. Nice to have you with us. And maintenance technician, and this says exactly the same thing as it did for Dawn, so I'm not going to reread it again. Thank you for your service and dedication to all of us in Clay County. Appreciate it very much. Okay. Jason Rona. Rowan, is Jason with us this morning?
I don't see him, but I will take it.
Okay. 15 years social services child support officer. And we have Miss Social Services with us here on the board. Take it, Mark. Thank you. Give it Mark best wishes. Dean Winkles, custodian groundkeepers, 15 years. And you keep Robbie happy, don't you? Okay. Thank you and congratulations for your 15 years of service. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
And now we get to pay the bills.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bills are paid. Approval of minutes of December 17th and 31st, 2013.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. This time we'll give the State of the County address for, at this time, for January 7th, 2014, and it was prepared for us by our Administrator, Brian Berg. And Brian, we thank you very much. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the staff of Clay County, I am pleased to present this State of the County address to the citizens of Clay County. In this report, I will review the mission of Clay County government, highlights of the activities, issues and projects implemented in 2013, and provide an overview of issues and expectations for the year 2014. The text of this message can be found on the Clay County website homepage. State of the County address, January 7th, 2014. The mission of Clay County government is that we are dedicated to providing services to the public in an efficient, responsible, and professional manner. Services will be delivered in a caring, humane environment, period. Clay County is dedicated to providing a work environment where we respect the dignity and recognize the merit of each individual employee. Clay County is committed to a policy of open government. The 2014 operating budget and tax levy. On December 17, 2013, the County Board of Commissioners adopted the annual operating budget and the tax levy for the year 2014. The total expenses for 2014 are estimated at $64,295,274. The revenue sources necessary to cover these expenses include $25.1 million in property tax levy, state aids, numerous grants, service fees, and other income. The $25.1 million in property tax represents a 3.53% increase over the 2013 tax levy. The net growth in tax base was a 1% increase in property valuations due to new construction. Economic development study. The county board completed a study of the economic development needs of Clay County, and as a result created an economic development authority. The highway department. 2013 proved to be a very busy year for highway construction projects in Clay County. The main projects completed included a joint project with the Minnesota Department of Transportation and the City of Hawley to realign the intersection at County State Aid Highway 31, 33, and Trunk Highway 10 to include a traffic signal. Selling of bonds to fund highway construction projects, local bonds for $10.9 million for a total construction package just under $17 million. The wheelage tax that has been implemented this year and Clay County agreed to take will raise about $460,000 for road construction in Clay County. Social services. Demands for social services remain high in Clay County, and they will continue to increase. They continue to strive for greater efficiency in home family-based services, supervised child visitations, chemical dependency treatment, commitments, hold orders for mental health and sex offenders, out-of-home placements, MinCare premium elimination, implementation of Minnesota Health Insurance Exchange, disability services, and also caring for our most vulnerable citizens. Public health. Along with other county departments, Public Health approached both the Minnesota and North Dakota legislative sessions for the purpose of changing laws which will enhance the detox center to serve clients from both sides of the river, freeing up expensive hospital beds. We are pleased to announce we have secured a contract with North Dakota to offer detox services, thus creating a more efficient operation. Public Health has been engaged with 3 other counties studying ways to more effectively deliver public health services. 2014 will be the last year for the Clay-Wilkin County Public Health Board, as we have formed a 4-county health board with Becker County, Clay County, Otter Tail County, and Wilkin County for 2015. And some of this is pending at the moment. Solid waste management. Our solid waste manager has retired, and we are engaged in a search to replace that position. Zoning. Our zoning department has been very active with the following: completed floodplain maps, completion of flood buyout projects, acquired a total of 41 flood-prone properties, and then in southeastern Clay County, the Lakes Wind project in that spot. Sheriff's Office. Possibly our most visible county department is our Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Berquist keeps high visibility, representing all of us in various public safety functions. He manages highly visible road deputies, criminal investigations, court security, all civil processes, flood issues, a year without a disaster, and that was quite a relief for this year so far, other natural and man-made concerns, fire investigations, school resource officer program, not only here but in other parts of the county, a desire to renew the K-9 program, and that looks like it's going to occur, Code Red system implemented and testing countywide, and the update of our 5-year disaster mitigation plan. Also, county jail in compliance with Department of Corrections standards. We have made continuous updates to the jail. we continue to transport more prisoners and the costs rise. We have lost an additional 6 beds for 2014. At some point, a new jail will be needed, and we have 2 commissioners who are on a committee at this time in the process of looking into that. And it's not going to happen today or tomorrow, but by the day after. West Central Regional Juvenile Center. The West Central Regional Juvenile Center, which offers a secure and non-secure programming to both male and female youth between the ages of 11 to 18, has been updated its security system, and this was done in 2013. The Recorder's Office implemented a new method to sell bulk data for real estate records. Veteran Service Program. Over $10 million in revenue was brought into Clay County in 2012. 2013 numbers are not available as of yet, by the various benefits provided to veterans. This amount does not include revenue brought into medical facilities by veteran visits. More important, however, than the dollars generated is that our veterans are receiving the services they deserve. Other programs Clay County participates in with the veterans: Beyond the Yellow Ribbon in Moorhead, Wounded Warriors Guide Service, Military Family Life Counselor, Military Family Assistance Center, Veteran Court, Paperless Filing System, Suicide Prevention, ROTC Snow Angels, Reserve Officer Training Corps, our volunteers, outreach program, and Project Homeless Connect. The annual audit of county finances. In November 2013, Minnesota State Auditor's Office presented its report on the annual audit of Clay County's accounts for the year ending on December 31st, 2012. In the issuance of the audit report, the state auditor has issued an unqualified opinion of the county's financial statements. That means that in the opinion of the state auditor, Clay County's financial statements conform with the applicable accounting standards. In closing, the Clay County Board of Commissioners is committed to the delivery of services in an efficient, cost-effective, and professional manner. We place a high priority on open communications with our citizens, and we welcome your input. Please feel free to contact any of the county commissioners or our county administration if you would like to share your feedback or suggestions. Our contact information is listed on the county website. Thank you and have a great year. And for those of you coming today, thank you for your presence. At this time, we are going to elect our chair and vice chair for 2014. We have a nomination for chair.
Nominate Kevin Campbell.
Second.
Okay. We'll stop there. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Do we have a nomination for vice chair?
Nominate John Edward.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell is our new chair starting now, and Commissioner Everett is our vice chair, and at this time we are in recess for approximately 10 minutes.
All right, good morning, everybody. We'll reconvene this morning's meeting, and we'll start off with the next item on the agenda, which is to establish the County Board of Commissioners meeting schedule for 2014. And currently, our meetings run the first 4 Tuesdays of the month, beginning at 8:30 a.m., and if there's a 5th Tuesday in a month, then no meeting would be held. So that's been the previous protocol of our meetings, and I guess we're open for discussion if you're satisfied with that. Periodically, we do run across an AMC event. I think that typically happens in early December, where we have to alter that date, as well as potentially switching the date for Tuesday around Christmas to the very last Tuesday. But with that being said, is there a wish to make a change or motion to adopt the schedule? John?
I think the schedule worked well. I would move that we keep the same schedule with the, exception that occasionally it may be necessary to meet on that fifth Tuesday as well, but that would be for special need.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, our next item is designation of official newspaper printing for printing of the notice and list of real property taxes and penalties, newspaper for printing of the delinquent tax statements, newspapers for the first and second printings of the Clay County financial statements. And we do have an addendum that was as part of the minutes. So before we begin this, maybe we should have our administrator give us a little update on where we're at with this. I know you've had a committee that's also been researching different aspects of, I know in the past there was discussion for the public out there, there was discussion about do we look at the ability to, because it's actually been citizen input that has said, well, can't you put this online? Well, I think our answer, and according to our legal, is we don't have the legal authority to do that yet. So with that in mind, Brian, would you like to tell us a little bit about what we have here?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. If I could, I'd ask Jenny to join me over here, because we did form a little bit of committee, Mr. Chair, just kind of an ad hoc. Vicki's been working with this, and of course, it really rests a lot on the Auditor-Treasurer's shoulders, so Lori is really heavily involved. And then we really gave this a lot of discussion this year, because in the past, we've been on a rotation basis with 3 newspapers, one from Holly, Barnesville, and Ulen, and they would rotate the different legal advertisings that we did. And of course, we have the official newspaper, we have delinquent tax notifications that go out, we have the first and second printings of the financials. And I bet we've met 4 times on this, and I know it seems like a lot of energy to put into the discussion, but we felt that we wanted to make a fair representation. We know this board wants to be fair. They want to be concerned about value. They're concerned about reaching the citizens out in the county. They are concerned about spreading the work of the county around, and we want to be legal in what we advertise as well. So the FM Extra was a new addition this year. We researched, I think, pretty heavily the legal ramifications of it, and Jenny can certainly speak to that. And last year we took that under consideration. We were concerned about circulation. We were concerned about circulation this year as well. And we tried to define the difference between circulation and delivery. Distribution, I should say, instead of delivery, and we tried to define that part of it. And
so when you say that, Brian, if you don't mind, when you say that, so you're talking about one entity who maybe goes out and does it through subscription versus another one who goes out and just puts them out for people to pick up. And
that's correct.
Is that okay? Right.
Yeah, that's when we talk about circulation. We don't want to talk about paid circulation. We feel that people make a real effort at paying a subscription to have the paper delivered, and they've probably been doing that for 40, 50 years, and they're concerned about the legals and what goes on in their community, and nothing to take nothing away from sites that are just dropped off and delivered, but then it's at the whim of the individual to pick up a copy and read into it. So we tried to evaluate that in our own minds, and I guess somebody could challenge us on that. Who are we to make that determination? But we tried to look on your behalf, tried to look at all the fairness issues of this. We also took into account that some of these small newspapers too, it's financially difficult for them, and if we take away one of these functions, and that's not necessarily our responsibility, but I know the commissioners would be concerned about that. So we tried to evaluate that and what that would do for a small community as well. So I guess we tried to figure in all of these factors when we make this recommendation to you. I know it's the board's decision, but if there's maybe I just look at Jenny here too. She was very helpful and instrumental in looking at the legal aspect of it and moving forward in a fair and just way. And we felt this is a professional service that you are buying here. It's not a bid process where we're looking for the greatest value to our taxpayer, and we spend a lot of time on that. So Jenny,
Sure.
you would like to address that too,
Mr.
please.
Chair, Commissioners, yes, Brian's right. We spent a lot of time going through this issue, and it wasn't limited to just this year. We started last year before the appointments or the designations were made, and it's kind of been a continuing focus for us to try to resolve it for the designations this year. And Brian summed up kind of all the things that we did look at. But legally, the statute defines what can and cannot qualify as a legal newspaper. And so with the request of the FM Extra to become involved in our publishing needs, we had to do some serious look into did they meet the qualifications of the statute. And many of the same things that Brian touched on are considerations that the statute speaks to. Circulation or distribution, content, those kinds of things. And we did, after taking a good hard look at it, decide that the FM Extra does appear to be a legal newspaper. It's registered with the Secretary of State this year. That is something that they must do pursuant to the statute. So we decided that that was the first step. They did qualify. Then the next consideration was, how do we want to handle this addition of a new legal newspaper option that we had? And again, looking at all the different types of printing that we do and the rotation that we had, it did seem fair to put the FM Extra into the rotation. We did ask for quotes from all the newspapers. It is considered a professional service, which is different than if we were buying a good. We would have to, depending on the dollar amounts, we'd have to send it out for bids, and then we'd have to look at the competitive bid process. This is different. It's a service, a professional service, so we ask for quotes, and we aren't bound by the absolute cheapest quote. We have to take a better look at what is the better value for the county, what would serve our taxpayers and our residents better, and considering the price as well, but that's not the overwhelming factor. And we did look at all 4 of these publications, and we decided that we essentially have 4 things that we print. We have the legal, we have the delinquents, and we have the first financial and the second financial, and it just kind of made sense. Let's put an FM Extra into the rotation and see how that arrangement will go. So with that, we did come up with a proposal that is before you, and it would continue the rotation to put the Clay County Union at the legal, as the legal newspaper, the Holly Herald as the publisher for the delinquent tax notices. The FM Extra would publish the first printing of the financial statement, and the Barnesville Record Review would publish the second financial statement.
John?
Question about, I think that, that we're right on. I'm glad we waited, because last year we had a lot of questions about whether or not it met the criteria. It seems like it does this year, and it's important to add it. But wondering, do they do any distribution, their free distribution into the outside of Fargo-Moorhead? Do they bring their papers to Barnesville, to Holly, to you?
I'm the head of distribution and circulation. If you have any questions, you can certainly ask.
Okay.
We were provided with a distribution list. That was one of the things that we had asked for from the Extra. And there were several locations in Clay County that they distributed to. So it's not just Fargo-Moorhead, it's greater. There are drop-off sites throughout Clay County.
That's great. And further, do the other papers do the same in Moorhead? Do they leave copies of the stuff they're printing for us in
That I don't know.
No.
I believe they're just subscription only.
Yes, I believe
Unless
so.
they have a few here or there that they drop off.
Sometimes the financial statement is, it's printed on a separate, and it could be distributed separately. And
Right.
I don't believe so.
it might be something to suggest to them, because then we have
Making extra
countywide
copies.
coverage that way.
That's right. And, Mr. Chair, I'll add this too. Terry Onstead stopped by. She's a general manager yesterday morning, and she had made an appointment. We'd tried to get together several times, and she did make me aware that, by letter form, that they are also online. The FM Extra is online, and that she also said that if they were the sole newspaper during our discussions, that they would print an additional 1,000 copies of the paper, and they would actually add extra staff for those distributions of those as well. But again, we took that into consideration, and I think that was very gracious of them. But we had a real concern for that rural citizen out there that has that paper delivered by the mail and has been doing so for many, many years. They wouldn't have access to that easily.
Mr. Chairman, I would move Resolution 2014-1 be resolved that the Clay County Union, designated as the official paper of 2014, and be it further resolved that Clay County Union will furnish the Holly Herald, the Record Review, and the FM Extra with copies of all proceedings published by them for the County of Clay.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Before we go on to any of these other ones, I do want to make comment too on I'm quite happy that the FM Extra is wants to be part of the service for this county. I think that's as just in the couple of questions that John just asked, it really shows, through the other three papers, they have a subscription type of a process that goes in. I would assume there's probably very little subscriptions generated within the county seat.
Right.
So, with that being said, you kind of have the opposite with FM Extra, where there's no question that they become very aggressive, in Moorhead with their ability to provide public information, political stuff. Some we might like, some we might not like, but that's part of what papers are. So you see the differences where a committee struggles with, where on one side you've got a sure way that somebody's going to receive something and read it, whereas in the other one you're somewhat dependent on, if I get into this particular place on this day, I can pick one up. I happen to pick them up all the time at the post office, but then there's some days when I walk into the post office and there's none there. So it just raised the issue, but I think for right now I am really happy that they got in on this rotation. And my experience with this rotation has been that we were trying to be fair with all three of these who expressed interest, three county businesses who expressed interest in doing business in Clay County and wanting to be part of Clay County. Brian, you made one mention of, a lot of them depend on the county revenue to help them survive. Well, I'm not so sure that we can
I
guarantee
agree.
that
No.
that part of it, but I would have been really disappointed, and I probably would be raising a large argument here if they wouldn't have been allowed to be into the rotation. And I just needed to say that. So.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move Resolution 24-2 regarding the Holly Herald.
Okay, as printed.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
I'll make a motion for resolution 2014-3.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
I'll make a motion with resolution 2014-4.
Second.
Discussion. Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right. So we have, these are official for 2014, and I would hope that next year when we look at this, we don't just take it as status quo. I think it's in fairness to all of them. I think we do need to research more. You know, it does kind of concern me on these 3 papers that are outside the community, not getting anything into our major population area either. So how do when those 3 are publishing what they're doing, how are the people within the the most populated area get their information? We need to address that, so.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One additional thing that, in the past, there has been kind of an ongoing memorandum of understanding that has been a signed document, because over the years, I guess there was some miscommunication on some things, and we are going to be renewing that with, now that we have 4, we're going to send out a memorandum of understanding just outlining what you have done today, and we'll ask your signature on that as well, too, and we'll get that out very soon. So Vicki pretty much has that prepared. So.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think we should acknowledge, too, that we certainly acknowledge that probably the biggest circulation in our county is the form, but it's not a state paper. It's a publication from North Dakota, and therefore we're required to have our local papers be official.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also, before we go down to the next item, which is reviewing of our committee appointments, I wish to offer a resolution that expresses our thanks to Wayne Ingersoll for his year of service as our chair, and meetings have never been so efficient and punctual as they were under Commissioner Ingersoll, and sometimes to the frustration of us who would like to talk more about the issues, but meetings were done very efficiently, and the business was completed, and we thank you for your year of service.
Do we get a second?
I'll second.
We have a second to that motion for the okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose the same.
Thank you.
Motion carried. I will tell you, Wayne, your meetings may be a little longer this year.
You're the manager.
Okay, let's move on to review of committee appointment. Well, wait, let's get this other job. We got some people here. Let's do an agenda addition. The 2, let's take care of veteran service first. Tom, you want to come up with yours? Yours will probably go the quickest here, I think. So. Good morning. It's good to see you back at it. I haven't seen you for a while. Well, you were out for a while, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you have a couple of requests here, huh? Grant requests?
Yeah. Well, as you know, when I'm not here very often, usually when I am, I'm asking either from some money from you or to be able to bring money to the county. And in this case, I'm delighted to be able to say that I'm requesting to be able to have you approve a grant request that would come from the state of Minnesota to our county. And I think I've identified, and I think you have that in front of you, of what the areas are going to be used for.
Well, I guess I would like you to just give a brief description for the public, so that, I mean, we've read it here, but the public doesn't see it. So if you could just give a brief description so the public knows what we're applying for and how it would serve us.
You bet. me, thank you. We're, this year it's a little, the grant system is being run a little bit differently than they have in the past. In the past, we would have what they call a 3-year cyclic grant opportunity, and that would be through the state of Minnesota, Department of Veterans Affairs, Minnesota, would allow a certain amount of money for us to have the opportunity to apply to be able to enhance our operations at the CVSO. And the amount of money that we're able to apply to is dependent on what the census state our veteran population is. And then later on, they also came out with something called an enhancement grant that could actually extend beyond just operations, for instance, outreach, reintegration events, and things of that nature, training. And so this year, I think this is the first time this has been done. What they've done is they've gone away with the cyclic. Every 3 years you can apply, and they're allowing us to apply for that right now, even if we've applied for it in the past, in addition to the enhancement grant. So we have a $7,500 base grant that I can apply to, and in addition to that, based on our population, there's a secondary grant which would be $5,000. Now, the way, so you could figure out the two amounts is a considerable amount of money, and it could really help our operation a great deal. The $5,000, if we're getting that approved, then it looks like this will be approved. That would go into, we're asking that would go into the Veterans Gap Fund, and that's the Cass Clay Veterans Gap Fund. And do you need any details on what that fund is for? Okay. And then the remainder of the grant is going to be divided for training expenses. Right now, we're looking at moving Jennifer to more of an advanced level in her training, and that hasn't been put into our budget at this time, and so that could augment that, and it could allow her to go to some advanced training this year. We're also wanting to do a little marketing and advertising. We haven't done that in several years, and the marketing and advertising that we've done in the past was primarily those particular programs that really go out to help the neediest of all veterans. There are particular state-level veteran programs that a large part of the community never seems to become aware of. They seem to always know what you can get at the VA, just across the street, but the state-level programs, no matter how much we try to get the information out, there's a lot of people out there that don't know that these programs are available. And when we marketed it before, we advertised before, we saw a surge in numbers. And that's been several years ago, and so we'd like to do the same thing with our state soldiers assistance program. So some of the monies would be used into marketing and advertising. And then another portion into bringing our electronics up to speed in our office. And we have identified specifically what exactly we'd be looking to do in that area.
Good. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
John.
Tom, do you have any, I see that the funds must be spent by May. Do you have any problem with getting it done in that time?
Yeah, there could be a problem. Most 99% will have it done, but it's going to, the funds that we may have to return if things don't work out will be the training funds, the funds we would set aside for training. And that's the nature of a grant. If you don't use the money, you have to return the money.
Usually you have a year or something to do it, though. This is pretty short.
Yeah, this is a little short notice. Yeah. So we will have a short window to do this, but we're going to try to use all of the monies as we intended. But if there's going to be one area that we don't and have to return some funds, it'll be on the training area.
Well, once again, thanks for your continued efforts to make things better for our county veterans, and certainly by bringing more funds in only enhances that. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to...
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the reception of these grants for the Veteran Service Office.
Second.
Second discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, our next agenda item is the department head elected officials healthcare savings plan. I think we've got our, Darren is going to come up. You're going to get some assistance from your guy over here, or are you going to handle it on your own?
I don't know. He's been actively involved with
Looks
this, too.
looks like it's your game.
He's hanging me out to dry, I guess. Oh, that's okay.
All right. Well, good morning, Darren.
Good morning. Last week, I had brought to the board a proposal on the healthcare savings plan for the elected officials, department heads. And we're just talking the elected department heads, not the board here. And as you know, this has been going on for a little while once we found out that they could not be involved with our sick leave severance program. And so I think last week I went into a lot of the history of that, so I won't go into all of that again. But at last week's board meeting, Commissioner Whalen and I can't remember the other one, wanted to take this back to the PIC for one more time. I think the hesitation of making this an ongoing program, wanted to have a little bit more discussion at the PIC committee on that. And so through several more emails, phone conversations with the Minnesota State Retirement System, and a little bit of a rework on the language of the healthcare savings plan that you see in front of you, they have agreed that this can be a sunset program for the elected officials, department heads that we currently have. So anybody elected prior to 1/1/14 is what we put in the language, would be subject to a additional compensation for a healthcare savings plan when they leave employment. And as you see, you have the formula, which was another sticking point. The Minnesota State Retirement System wanted what kind of formula we were going to use for this, and you have that in front of you as well. This was the same formula that was presented last week as well. So there was no changes to that formula. So I guess what we're asking right now is that the change is that this would be a sunset program. It does, I think, address the fairness of it, of the elected department heads that are here now that were expecting this for many, many years. And it also grants the wishes of the boards to sunset this program and not have it an ongoing program. And so what I would like to do is rescind the board minutes for the 9/24/2013, where we were going to do a lump sum payment, and approve an additional Section 12 of the personnel policy dealing with elected department heads' healthcare savings plan.
So we need to do that in two steps, right? We want to rescind the one first. Is that
Correct.
That's what you're looking for?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to do that?
I'll move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to rescind the 9/24.
And we did meet with the PIC.
Hang on a second. We got to vote. We did vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same motion. Okay, now go ahead.
And we did meet with the PIC yesterday, and that was the consensus that we would adopt that way.
Okay, so now we move on to the new.
Correct. Correct.
And this is what you have in Section 12?
Yes, this would be in addition to the personnel policy under its own section for the elected department heads' healthcare savings plan program.
Jenny, have you reviewed this?
Yeah, I've been on the PIC committee and reviewed it several times, and we met yesterday just to go over the sunset provisions, and it looks accurate, it also looks appropriate, so I would approve it as to form and content.
And I do want to make a comment. When we talked about this last week, I raised a concern about something that might be different for elected people versus our department heads or managers. And I received a report this morning from our administrator that showed indeed these numbers are extremely close. So I think that's kind of good news, is that there doesn't seem to be where an elected official is getting considerably more than anybody else. I think the numbers were down to as close as $4 in some areas, so it was real close. So I was happy to see that. Grant.
Yeah. We didn't have the PIC meeting yesterday, and I think we finally got this resolved to everybody's satisfaction.
It's been a long road.
There's been numerous meetings on this issue, and Brian and Darren and Jenny and Jennifer all worked very hard on it for a number of months, and I think we finally got to the point where what we had originally intended is that we make whole the existing officials that were planning on getting something for a number of years, and we sunset this, so in the future we won't have this issue to deal with again. And so
Yep.
I think it worked out, at least to my satisfaction, that it's what we intended to do, and I think it's satisfactory to the existing elected officials too that are impacted by it.
Yeah. We did send a draft copy of this yesterday to MSRs, and they would approve that language, so that's already been done.
I have one question. On the last page of our handout here, well, just after the listing of the dollar amount, after the 1,010 for 25 years, it has language in here that makes it sound as if it's going to be ongoing. Is that necessary?
It's only ongoing for the ones that remain here. So if
okay.
department elected
so we
department
can
heads.
still adjust
Correct.
the numbers is what it
Correct.
means. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That is resolved.
Hallelujah.
Another one down. On to the next one. Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda, and I guess we're not going to necessarily complete this today, but we should have a little bit of dialogue here. We've got about quite a bit of time before we were scheduled to adjourn, so moving into the committee appointments. I think you all received this in the mail in advance, and I think we have to note a couple of ones that automatically change with the new year. We have some that the chair and the past chair serve on. We have some that the chair and the vice chair serve on. So I think I might have inherited a couple, and so with that, we can sometimes end up with too much. I do want to say, and I talked with Commissioner Everett here, and I've been on extension for a long time. I don't really want to go off extension. I like it, but I really would like to see John be able to get back on extension for 2014. So if he's willing to accept it, I would like to offer that committee to Commissioner Everett.
Yeah, that's fine if it's okay with you.
That doesn't mean I might not want back on there someday, but. So, and I guess, if we can maybe each of us just kind of glance through these, I'll kind of go through mine here, and we should also be thinking about if there's any that we have here that if we have too many committees and we think some of these aren't necessary anymore, we should speak up and deal with them. But the audit investment is new for me, the budget, finance, and capital reporting. Business subsidy, that one is been really active lately. The same with the Clay County Economic Development Advisory Committee for the business subsidy. Emergency Services Advisory, that's an ad hoc committee. I don't know that we meet, so that's one that should be in question.
Which one?
The Emergency Services Advisory Ad Hoc.
I had the same question on mine. I'm on it too, and
So we might want to revisit why that was put on as a committee, and maybe it's served its useful life. We don't know. We can maybe have Vicki do a background on that to see.
Mr. Chair, one of my questions, I mean, we just redid the emergency plan, and this committee, as far as I know, wasn't involved with it.
Right, right. But this could be something entirely different. I think we just need to look back in the record and see what was the intent. The flood buyout planning, that is certainly, it's quieted down, it's really inactive right now, but you never know what the next flood brings, so I suppose we can just keep it there. And the diversion authority is going to be around for a while, and so is the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Insurance Highway. Jail needs joint powers, MnDOT Variance Committee, I haven't been to any of those. And Grant, you're on the Regional Radio Board, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I really haven't been able to attend those. The Oak Fork Dike Technical Committee should be just about done. We have that one little phase left, but and then the one I get back again now is the personal issues one. Regional recycling and regional solid waste, those are ones that I'm quite heavily involved with right now with the...
Is there a separate recycling committee?
Well...
I'm not aware of that.
I'm not either. I just don't know why we have that recycling in there. That might be another one, Vicki.
For the proposal that we refer to people that
Well-
John and Kevin to go over to deal with that.
Well, that could fall right under the Solid Waste Management Committee. That would just be a subcommittee of that. I think that doesn't need to be listed.
Not that it's not something we need to work on, but it's
Right, well, yeah,
part
it's
of the...
big, yeah. And the Sheriff's Posse Advisory, I think I went to one originally, and I have never been back. And then we have the
They
actual...
don't really get notified. I'm on that too, and maybe you could ask the sheriff to notify us when
When they have their meetings, yeah.
I think that may be the problem, that we're
Yeah.
not getting...
It's just nice to know from representatives that, that we're there for the public
Right.
too, when they start hearing about posse, that there's, they've got a seat there. And then we have the actual solid waste advisory, though, so that's dealing with the issues not surrounding the joint facility issues that we're looking at. And the 336 Joint Powers Corridor, that's been kind of inactive, and the Moorhead Wellhead Protection just kind of finished up their 5-year deal, so that'll probably, but that has to still stay in place, but it'll be inactive, so. John, would you like to go through your list and see if there's any that...
Okay, the first two can be crossed off. After many years on the AMC Board of Directors, I'm no longer on. I did serve 3 years following my presidency, but that's the limit for past presidents, so I'm not on that anymore. However, past presidents do continue on Futures Committee and also the Legislative Steering, so those I'd like to leave on there. The Buffalo Red River Watershed Ditch Authority, the ditch coordinating, I'm on the advisory committee Citizen Advisory Committee for Buffalo Red, and I'm not sure if that's what that means, ditch coordinating committee. We turned over all of our ditches to the watershed long ago, so I don't see that there's a ditch coordinating committee, but there is a Buffalo Red Watershed Advisory Committee, which I've served on, continue to serve on, and I'd like to stay on that.
Let's just get clarification on the wording of that.
Just a title, probably.
Because I've been the alternate in that too, and I know I've gotten invitations to go to those things.
County-owned property is an ongoing thing I think we still need. The Economic Development District for West Central Minnesota, I've been on that for the year. I think it's an important committee, but I have had conflicts nearly every time and have not been able to get to more than one or two of those meetings. So if someone else would like to be on that, I think that's one of the, it would serve everybody better if
Where
I
do you
wasn't
have
on
to
there.
travel to?
Fergus Falls.
Fergus Falls.
It's at West Central Initiative.
Oh,
they
okay.
can meet. And,
Would somebody else have the time to do that?
Which one was that, John?
the Economic Development District for West Central Minnesota.
Oh, I think that's what I was on that I couldn't make, and then...
Yeah. So we haven't been well represented the last years on that.
meet?
Well, it's during the day, usually over noon. They have come together for lunch, so it's just a couple hours.
It doesn't meet that often.
No,
I mean, it's,
I don't know. It's probably quarterly. Is it maybe not even quarterly?
I don't even, it's quarterly.
Twice a year, maybe?
Twice a year, yeah.
What days does it meet on?
What's- What's that?
What days does it meet on?
Oh, I don't remember that even. It's probably different each. But if somebody else would like to serve on that, I think that would be a good gesture. I think on the part of us.
Maybe Frank and I can take it on one, and the other is an alternate.
Yeah. If,
I don't have a problem with that.
You want to try it, Frank?
See what it's about.
And I can go on as an alternate if that's okay.
As long as the organization allows alternates, then it would be good.
yeah.
I see that Grant is listed as an alternate.
Oh,
Yeah, but I am...
So you're willing to go off as
That's-
alternate?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
you-
fine. No, that's fine. I haven't been able to go either, so...
okay.
And I might not either.
So you're good?
Go for it.
All right, so,
Change
Vicki, you got
to
that, Gene?
Wayne for alternate.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that's probably good, because I think Commissioner Gross is also on the revolving loan fund.
Yeah.
which is
Oh, yeah.
That would be good
chaired by-
connection there.
Yeah.
It can tie together.
You're on that too, I did it all in one.
No, I haven't been.
No, I think we just have one on there.
And the next one here is the
Okay.
Emergency Services Advisory, and that one, it seems to me an important committee, but I don't think it's been used as far as involving the commissioners, and we should check with
Yeah.
Brian about that and so on. The Diversion Land Management, that continues.
It's important
and,
for you to be on that one.
Family Health Care Alternate, that's fine unless somebody else wants to take that. Haven't been called on very often for that one. Frank serves that. You've been making those meetings. Felton Prairie Stewardship, again, I think that's something each year we say we need to meet again to try to review where we're at that and the use of our gravel pit out there and so on. So I would hope we can continue on that one more year at least. And maybe if we have a final meeting, we can wrap up what we're doing. But it's been a long time since we've met, and I think it's important that we get an update.
I had a question on that one too. I was trying to find out what that's about, because I never...
Well, we intensively studied for many years, at least 5-6 years, on how to use our gravel mine out there in Keene Township.
Okay.
And in balancing it with the environmental concerns with the native prairie and so on. And we came up with an extensive report and recommendation to the county as to how to do it, and we've been following that, I think. But we need to have a meeting to update and review to make sure that we are following the intent of that report. Friends of Buffalo River State Park, that hasn't been active. Jerry and I used to be on it, but I'm not aware that they've met for years. It'll probably 4 or 5 years, 4 years maybe. So maybe we should make an inquiry out to the park and see if there's an intent to get that going. If not, we should just drop it.
Just dissolve it, yeah.
Highway tracking, I enjoy being on that. Historical and cultural, spent a lot of time with that. Lakeland Mental Health Center, I'd like to continue with that. Lakes and Prairies Community Action, the same. Noxious Weed Appeal, alternate. Again, we haven't been called on for quite a while, but it's important to have that in place in case there is a dispute between our regulators and the public. So, Planning Commission, I would be happy if somebody would like to pick that one up. If anybody like to be on the Planning Commission, that's not any. Otherwise, I can do it for one more year, I suppose. But after that,
You're still darn good at it.
Yeah, thank you. After that, somebody might have to pick it up. So, Public Health Advisory. I don't think we meet as an advisory anymore. We have the Public Health Board, but we used to always meet as advisory prior to our board
Right.
meetings, and that hasn't, and also separately. But maybe there too, we should ask Kathy about if there's any future, if no longer a Public Health Advisory Committee, then we should cross it off.
Because there was two on that, wasn't there?
Yeah. Well, no, two of us served.
John and Wayne.
Yeah, two of us served on that, but they haven't met, no, have they?
Not that I
Right.
recall.
Yeah. Okay,
So she
Basin
says-
Commission, I spent a lot of time with that one. Again, regional recycling, I think we should cross that off. I think that's part of the solid waste committee. Regional Water Planning Joint Powers Board, that's the one that meets in Monoman quarterly, and that one I, certainly would continue on for the next year at least. Security alternatives. Do we still have that committee? That's what we were looking at, the security for the front door, I think.
Yeah.
And so
I think we
maybe
met
that
once last year.
can be just crossed
I don't
off.
think we did it all last year. It was the year
No.
before, I think, so.
Solid Waste Advisory Committee, yes. Southside Flood Task Force. I think that was the committee that we had in place prior to the whole diversion discussion when they were talking about a dike on the south side of Fargo.
I think you're pretty much taking place that with your land management
Yeah, I
deal,
think that's,
so it's-
I think that's done too, so I think we can cross that off. I imagine if something happens where the authority falls through with their plans, that would be back
Yeah.
on the table again.
It wouldn't be
Surveyor Committee, we have functioned with that, and there's a need to continue that, I suppose, for another year anyway. So,
Absolutely.
Wellhead protection for Barnesville, of course, meet as needed. Wild rice water flood reduction, watershed flood reduction, alternate on that, and we see who else is on that one. Is
I
that,
am on that one, but
they haven't met this,
they haven't met this yet.
but it's I think important to be there in case they do need advisory. I think that serves as as the advisory committee like the Buffalo Red Advisory Committee does, and then you gave me extension, and
Yeah.
that's okay with everybody. So
Yeah.
I guess that's.
John, I'd like just to clarify one thing here. I also took off the regional recycling off of mine, but I had two on there that deals with solid waste, and one is the Regional Solid Waste Management Steering Committee, and the other one is the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. I think you should show on there the Regional Solid Waste Management Steering Committee. That is still basically what we're now doing with PERM. So I would say that we should
Add that?
add that to John's, and that same terminology, and I think at this point, we're allowed to have two. I don't think one needs to be a member and one an alternate, so if you're okay with that,
Yeah, that's
that's what
right.
we should do.
That's
Okay. All right, we're kind of getting close to our time here. Wayne, can you zip through yours?
Everything looks pretty good. I do have a question, a little ways down, Corrections Advisory Grant, you're on that too. Do they meet?
Corrections, well, I think once a year, maybe.
Okay, I'd like to be notified when they meet, because I never have.
That's the one with Mike Stoltman, I believe, and
Okay, but
and it's pretty sparse.
looking through this, Kevin, it looks fine.
Okay. They're all active?
Then, yeah. The only one that probably, interagency early intervention, I think they now meet in Fergus Falls. It used to be a monthly meeting here, but that's changed, but it still is in existence. Audit investments, that would be you and me, so that would remain the same, for me anyway. That's the third one down.
Yeah.
And then personnel issues, that would be you and me.
Yes.
Okay. It's fine.
Okay, Frank?
I guess John had covered a couple of them that I was concerned about, was that the Health and Prairie Stewardship, you already covered that, and Friends of the Buffalo River State Park. I guess we're keeping them on there, but like I said, I didn't know what they were about because we've never met. Other than that, there's that 336 corridor, we didn't meet on that yet.
It's pretty inactive right now. There's not much happening there.
If we want to keep that committee, I guess.
I think there would be use again for that if, for instance, there was a plan to put an intersection at 12th
12th,
Avenue,
yeah.
you know.
I think we want to keep it there.
Right, I think we want to keep it. I just wanted to make sure that I'm just trying to find out, do they meet, or wasn't I just informed, or it's just inactive pretty much, okay. Same with that wellhead protection, I realize we met a few times, but I think they decided not to meet again for about 10 years, didn't they say that?
The wellhead protection?
Yeah.
Well, they go through a 5-year deal, and then, you know,
I knew we made up a plan for
Yeah.
several years, and
But if there's a problem,
we'd have to
they need
keep it,
meet.
we'd have to keep it, I
If
guess.
there's some problem, they would have to meet again. For instance,
Other
if
than
you had
that,
a-
I'm happy with my.
if you had a derailment and gas,
But you
oil
did add-
spilling into the aquifer, there might be a need. for
right.
that.
Then, but you did get added one today, right, from John?
Right,
Economic Development District for West Central.
right.
Okay, Grant, it's down to you.
I had a question about, I'm on business subsidy, but is that different than Clay County Economic Development Advisory Committee for business subsidy policy? I'm not on that, but I thought I was on that, but I'm confused by that. See what I'm saying? There's business subsidy under mine, which I've been part of, and then like over on yours, Kevin, there's business subsidy and Clay County Economic Development Advisory Committee for business subsidy. Are they the same thing, or?
Didn't we have a business subsidy prior to?
Yeah, they're,
But I was on that too, where we had the recommending committee.
well, am I the only one that's got the Clay
Well,
County?
Frank's on that too, and I don't think you've been involved in that, have you, Frank?
Yeah.
What, the Clay County one?
The Clay County Economic Development Advisory.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that should be me instead of Frank on there, I think.
I think that's probably what
Yeah.
it should be.
And then, let's see, you're going to take off the security alternatives one, and West Central Trails Planning, I've been on that for 5 years, and I've never been to a meeting. You're on it too, in the alternate. And have you heard, I don't think we've ever, I don't even know if it exists, so.
Isn't that the one that was working on the trail that would come across from
The Hardman Trail.
Detroit Lakes through the park and?
This isn't-
If they had a,
No,
what-
that's a different, yeah,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if they've had a meeting, we've never been notified.
yeah.
And as long as can we go back to John's for just a moment here? John, you mentioned at the bottom, the South Side Flood Task Force.
Yeah.
I would suggest that anything having to do with flooding, even though it's been dormant, that it stay there. But that's,
Can't make a difference.
There is no
The
task
purpose,
force
of that was that was strictly related to flooding planning that was being done on the Cass County side, and how it might have impacted the Clay County side. So it really isn't, it's really off the table now. Like John said, if
Can be added if it's.
the diversion project were to go away, then my guess is something like this would show back up again. You know, but, you know,
Anyway, that West Central Trails Planning one, Vicki, maybe you can check, see if they even exist. I don't know. Take us off if they don't.
See what I checked.
I don't know. Maybe just, like I say, this is my 5th year on it. I've never been notified of anything or heard of anything, or nobody's come and given us a presentation on anything. It probably doesn't exist anymore. It maybe did at one time, so.
I need to go back here in a minute, talk and maybe get some clarification from Jenny on something, but this, that you brought up, Grant, was the Clay County Economic Development Advisory Committee. The county board has now established a Clay County Development Authority.
Right.
So this group, this Clay County Economic Advisory Committee, could still be in existence to recommend or to give information to the full economic board. Is that correct?
It could, my understanding was that Economic Development Advisory Committee was formed to determine whether or not we would form the Economic Development Authority.
Okay.
Now that we've done that I guess my opinion is that it could dissolve and recommendations come from the Business Subsidy Committee.
Okay, so we should, that was my point, we should get rid of one or the other.
I think the Business Subsidy Committee
Is
should...
more appropriate?
Is more appropriate and should continue, and being that we've formed the Economic Development Authority, the other one has served its purpose.
Yep.
Okay, so that
That makes
would
sense.
solve the problem then about, so, Frank, that would just be crossed off yours and mine. Then it would remain, mine would remain on mine as a business subsidy as well as with grant. Okay, that solves this. All right, so Vicki will modify this and bring it back for us next week for a final review and...
I've sent some emails here to check with people on some of your
Okay,
questions. So
all right. Now, do we have to act on this, or did we do this?
we can act on that through requesting action. The MetroCog one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we need to do this. Okay. We have before us a request from MetroCog to appoint 2 members to that committee from Clay County, and the current members, we have Frank Gross as our member and Grant Wayland as an alternate.
I will move that we reappoint them to that committee.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same motion carried. Okay, that's done.
If someone wanted to get on that committee, they could, it's our turn to be chairman this year, so.
What's that?
It's our turn to be chairman this year of this committee, so.
Frank's the big boss this year.
Oh, yeah, then we definitely need you to stay on this.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
committee.
it'd be an opportunity to step up for somebody.
Well, there
No,
you
it's
go.
fine.
There you go.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question on, just back on this trail thing. The one that you're on, that you meet from Ulen North,
Yeah.
is that the Heartland?
No,
What's that one called?
Agassiz
Okay.
Valley Recreation.
Okay, but you haven't met as Heartland.
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm on the Heartland Trail Extension.
And you haven't,
Oh, yeah, we meet all the time.
oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Frank just hasn't been, had to go, because he's the alternate. Okay, all right, gotcha.
All right, we're winding down here. We've got, we've still got our committee reports to go through, and I'll start to my left today with Commissioner Ingersoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Wednesday, January 6th, Personnel Issues Committee, that's already been covered. Thursday, January 3rd, Clay County Joint Powers Committee meeting, general business, finalized plans for the intergovernmental retreat to be held on January 24th. We discussed and agreed to update the committee's operating procedures, and then we discussed topics for future and upcoming meetings. We will be looking at what happened in Castleton and how we should be prepared, and Brian will probably add to that. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Frank?
No meetings.
No meetings.
Just pick for me, and we already resolved that issue, so.
Okay.
I just had one meeting with the Historical Society, working our fundraising campaign.
I had no meetings during the New Year holiday week, so I suppose Brian was really busy, though. Brian, you have a lot?
Believe it or not, Mr. Chair, it has been crazy.
Okay.
Absolutely crazy. Well, the first thing I have on my list is to thank also Commissioner Ingersoll for his support and his real willingness to work with myself and the staff this past year as your chair. That was really appreciated, so thank you very much, Wayne. Attended the Joint Powers meeting, and Commissioner Ingersoll handled that quite well. And that does kind of spill into another meeting that is coming up fairly soon. And there's something brewing, and I forwarded some information yesterday in regards to that. And this train derailment in Castleton really is stirring some anxieties for a lot of people. If you saw on the news, I don't think any of us realized. I mean, I'd heard that this Bakken crude oil was a pretty sweet crude, is the way they called it. That the refinery process didn't take as much as the old tar-looking oil. And I think it proved out when that explosion in Castleton, and then they showed that on TV. It looks like it's something you could dump in your tank and burn right now. And with that explosion, you probably could, you know. So we have those trains coming through, and we need to start paying closer attention, I think. We talked about it in the last time in the emergency measures, but it reaches out further than that. And I know yesterday in some of the emails, it's getting the federal offices involved and getting the railroad involved as far as the safety of the equipment, the speed of the tracks, the condition of the tracks, what do they do going through these populated areas, and so that's really going to be, I think, on the radar for the next few months. So we'll certainly keep you up to date on what's happening there, and certainly entertain any comments or questions and inquiries that you folks have on that. But we had a management team meeting and talked about several things, going through some training and things again as well on that. Some catching up on some personnel evaluations. I shouldn't say kept catching up, but keeping current with that. We had the PIC committee, that's been already addressed and talked about. We had a conference call on reference to public health and a discussion there. And just to kind of try to bring you up very briefly on it, in regards to it, that is a 4-county study in regards to establishing your public health board. Becker County does have some questions in regards to some input and some wordage on the program, and we had a conference call yesterday and talking about, there's a meeting set, maybe I should go back. There was a meeting that's been held for the last couple of years in regards to establishing this 4-county consortium called For Partners for Health. And the contract or the joint powers entity agreement is going back to this committee now on February 7th to look at it. It will continue forward with its progression, but just to clarify some of the wordage, hopefully answer Becker County's questions on this and move forward, because Becker County was having a heavy discussion this morning in their board meeting, and I think they're a little concerned about some of the wordage and their input and things, and I guess both Otter Tail and Clay counties, I feel that our board wants us to make this happen, so we certainly want to work with them in answering their questions. I mean, you want those questions answered before you go into an agreement, and hopefully it lowers some of the anxiety once you get into that contract. So just to let you know that is kind of moving forward, but it's involves some time.
John?
Brian, is there, I tried to understand why they wanted those changes, and there's 2 words that they want to change, and I don't quite understand if will it weaken the partnership to do that? I mean, it has to do with the appointments of people to that board.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, and Commissioner Everett, there was 2 words, and it was a shall to a may, and I think that was kind of a little bit of a hang-up. And what that dealt with is not the bylaws, but the resolution, the agreement said that the public health administrators shall select names of individuals that they would recommend to that particular county board for appointment. Because the governing board will be is suggested as one commissioner from each of the 4 counties, and then a citizen at large. And that citizen at large would be selected by the public health administrators, and then the county commissioners from that county that person is from, and that would be on a rotation basis, then would select from that list, and that said shall. And they want it may because they would want to go necessarily outside of what the recommendations are from the public health administrators.
But to me, the language of shall, they shall recommend. They didn't say that they're going to make, so you don't have to accept their recommendations. The board wouldn't have to accept their recommendations, would they? I mean,
that's how I read it as well. But again, that's a sticking point. So,
yeah, in reviewing it, I think that the change is somewhat trivial, and I think it maybe is more, there are different issues coming into play rather than just that word, but without having the public health administrators here to offer their input, I certainly don't know all the ramifications, but would seem something, in contract negotiation, oftentimes there's a push and pull from different parties to change things, and this doesn't seem to be one of those things that would be a sticking point.
And Commissioner Everett, I think the reality of it is, and I said this at the first meetings that you weren't at those because Jerry Waller was representing the board at that, about 2 years ago when we went into this study of it, I think we have to remember that Becker County is coming to this joint powers after a 20-year, 25-year in a other multi-county jurisdiction in which it was a pretty aggressive exit out of that. So they're gun-shy right now. And frankly, even in our presentation down at AMC, if you're going into a consortium that has to be established at least for 5 years, you need to feel comfortable with that. You have to you have to trust your other members. And I guess if we can go back to the table and sit down and vet this a little further. And remember, they started out a little slow on this because there was some disconnect over there on who was representing, and so that slowed things down from their standpoint too. So
I guess I personally don't think that change would make any difference one way or the other.
I think we all agree, but there's more parties here, so I think that was the issue. But that did involve quite a bit of time. Jenny and I visited about that, visited with Kathy a lot about it, had a conference call in regards to it. So I think it's going to go forward in a cautious manner there that will satisfy everybody involved, hopefully. We did some more work on the solid waste issue, and as you folks hopefully all know, that we do have a follow-up interviews today in regards to that. So Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Everett will be certainly leading us on that, and we're feeling real positive about that. Tomorrow night tomorrow afternoon we have the our meeting in regards to the dispatch agreement, so we're looking forward to, I think it's Commissioner Everett and Commissioner Gross who are on that. Hopefully you've been notified of that.
Who? Is this fine out there?
Dispatch?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay.
We got a meeting tomorrow night.
Tomorrow afternoon. Yeah.
What time?
I think it's like at 4:30.
Huh.
Let me follow up on that.
Yeah.
Matt sent out the notification some time ago, and then he just reminded us of it yesterday. I know I think it was a couple months ago he set
So
that.
it's with the county people, the
cities.
The cities.
Yeah, into that equation of pay for the dispatch services.
I wasn't aware of the meeting at all.
I'm glad I'm bringing it up.
that's with our small cities?
Yes. Yeah.
I have another meeting
You do.
at that time too. So
Okay. Okay,
Anything
let's...
else, Brian?
Talk about it later.
Yeah, a couple more things.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, and it was brought up, to me that maybe the board would like to have another discussion about a paperless system. I know Jerry brought that up, and we looked at scanning and looked at possibly PCs or working off of a computer, and we kind of thought that would be okay to talk about, but then we got a sense that some would just as soon go with the paper, and I think at some point in time it would be okay to discuss that more in length. I'm just bringing it up now for your thoughts, and we don't have to discuss it at all right now, but we are certainly capable of doing that if you folks want that. So we want to do what you want to do. So
You'd love it, Wayne. There it is.
And Mr. Chair, I think that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki, anything else for the go to the order? Frank, you got something?
I think we got a bid opening in 3 today too, don't we?
Yes, we do. I'm sorry. We do. On the motor vehicle department.
That was my question.
Yes.
What's happening? What's happening with motor vehicles?
3 o'clock this afternoon. So,
Construction starting at 8 tomorrow then?
excuse me? Well, I think the board will have to approve it before anything starts. So we'll come to the board with that on the 14th.
All right. Okay. Jenny, anything?
No, thank you.
All right. We are adjourned.